And welcome. It's been a minute since I've done any sort of sit down video. I think it feels like I've just been doing a lot of home updates and stuff like that, just because that's what's been consuming my days off. Today we're just gonna chat about the importance of your rug. I didn't realize that I had so many opinions on this, and it's really not just opinions. This is just a guide for you when you're deciding on a rug. There's more science to it, there's more math, there's more measuring than I think a lot of people assume. You're like, oh, let's just get a rug that fits this general area. And when I see things like that, it upsets me. So, and it's unfortunate. I know that's on me. You know who I place the blame. I feel like there's a lot of influencers out there that, I can't believe I'm throwing shade like this, that they have good taste. They really do have excellent taste. And then they're sharing their home with you. And they are not qualified to give interior advice. Am I the most qualified person? Yes. My point is that, you know, there's images that I see all the time that are clearly like some influencer's home. And I'm like, I love this. This looks great. But the rug upsets me. So I'm gonna tell you how to buy a rug and talk about whether or not you need a rug, how to place it, what size to get for general spaces, living room, dining room, bedroom. Those are like the three main spaces that you're buying a rug that you're potentially investing in, because rugs are not cheap unless you're lucky like me and get one for free on Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to break this up into three categories. The first being size and placement. The second being anchoring, which I'll explain a little bit more what I mean by that when we get to that category. And the third being plain versus pattern, and I will argue for both. I'm going to do a debate against myself for why you can choose either size and placement. Living space. Now, keep in mind when I'm talking about these things, I know it kind of doesn't pertain to everybody. However, I'm going to do the best that I can to incorporate as many varieties of spaces as possible. So let's say in your living room I'm going to assume that you have a sofa, and I'm going to assume that you have chairs. Now, whether you have a sofa and a settee or whatever, you know, try to fill in the blanks of what I'm trying to say here, or else we'll be here all day. Coming at this with a lot of sass today, I'm sorry. Good rule of thumb, your rug has to be bigger than your area. I need to move over to show photo examples. I get upset when rugs are smaller than the living area. It doesn't make sense to me. All of your furniture needs to be touching the rug. The only time that your furniture should not be touching the rug is on the back end of the furniture pieces. So when it comes to chairs, I like them to be fully on the rug. I do. Again, I think this is kind of circumstantial. If they're really big chairs, more like sofa style chairs or like chairs and a half, it's going to fall more into the sofa category. With a sofa, I would like the front of the sofa to be at least halfway on the rug. So the rug needs to be halfway underneath the sofa. I would not go further back than the back legs. So the back legs should be off the rug, okay? This is just general. It kind of depends on how everything lines up in the room as well, okay? So if your focal point is a fireplace or a TV or whatever, you know, your chairs and your sofa, if they're across from each other and okay, let's do it like this. These are your chairs. These are your sofa. Here's your focal point in the space, okay? You know, these have to be pretty even across from each other, and the rug is stabilizing everything, okay? Or anchoring, which we'll talk about later. You know, you don't want the coffee table in the center to be too far in front of the chairs or too far in front of, you know, you want everything to be symmetrical. Maybe you don't, but in this case we do. That's gonna determine your rug placement as well. Does that make sense? You don't want the sofa to be too far back so that it's not on the rug, and you don't want it to be too far forward that it's too close to the coffee table and fully on the rug. You know what I mean? Keep it all as balanced as you can. I just think it makes the room look more polished, more intentional, better designed. So size, it just needs to be that everything, all of your furniture fits on the rug. Now I am breaking this rule as we speak. The rug in my room, I have like 2 inches on each side. I didn't have a ton of room in front of my fireplace, so there are exceptions, okay? I'm breaking this rule myself. Ideally, I would like for my rug to extend past my sofa, which is the longer piece of furniture, by probably 3 inches on each side. I mean, that would be nice. But this isn't a perfect world, and we don't have perfect rugs all the time. My rug is like 7 by 10 instead of an 8 by 10. So, you know, take that with whatever. Now, all of this can be thrown right out the window if you decide that you just want one big rug to cover your entire room. I just ask that you give me 6 to 12 inches of perimeter where you can see the floor that's underneath the rug. I just need a little gap. In your bedroom, clients ask me this all the time, where do you put the rug, like how far back in the bedroom? I like for it to be in front of the nightstands. So when you're getting out of bed in the morning, your feet should be on carpet or on rug, whatever. The front of your nightstands cannot be on the rug. It's topsy-turvy, it's not a good look. Give yourself a little bit of gap, even if it's just 2 inches. Give yourself a little gap in front of your nightstands. So when you're stepping out of bed, the rug that's running down the sides of the bed should be at least a foot. Give yourself at least a foot to stand on. If not, really like 1.5 feet would be ideal. Now, in front of your bed, this is where I get a little bit more particular. Don't get a rug that's too big for your space. I don't like more than 3 feet of rug in front of your bed. If your rug is only halfway under your bed and you can see half of the rug and half of the pattern or whatever it is, I don't like it. Unless you're doing a bench or something at the foot of your bed, that's the only time where you can gain, you know, then in front of that bench or in front of that trunk or whatever it is in front of your bed, do the 3 feet in front of that object. Does that make sense? So I really can't stand when I see a rug that's centered in the room and it's like halfway under your bed, so you're not stepping on it when you get out of bed in the morning, and then it's half of the rug is in front of the bed. No. Okay, dining. This is probably the hardest one for people to conceptualize. Everyone needs their chair in your dining room. If you're doing a rug in your dining room, okay, we'll talk about that later. But if you're doing a rug in your dining room, everybody's chair needs to be on the rug. And when they back up, they need to mostly be on the rug. So 2 feet on all sides is ideal for centering your dining table on the rug. I'm not saying 2 feet behind the chairs. I'm saying from the edge of the table to the edge of the rug, 2 feet on all sides. So that your chair, when you're sitting in it comfortably, is fully on the rug. Otherwise, you're like rocking. That's not fun. No one wants to do that. But again, we can't go too big in a dining room. Just don't go further than 3 feet past the table. If you have the room to have 3 feet on all sides, your dining table could actually just be too small for your room. But that's a whole other problem. If your dining table is too small for your room and you like it, and you like that that table so much that that's too bad. That's the size table that you have. Don't exceed 3 feet on all sides. It just will look unbalanced. Anchoring. This is something that I talk about with clients all the time. You need to anchor your room with a rug. Otherwise, your furniture is floating out in the ether. And this can be challenging for some people, especially in a dining space. People don't always want a rug underneath their dining table, which I understand. You might not need one. For example, in my own space, I don't have a rug under my dining table because my dining room is already anchored by tile. If you have a situation like this where you have tile, that's anchoring your dining table. But something like this, where the table is the same color as the floor, first of all, I need to separate those tones. This allows you to separate whatever color wood. Let's say it's slightly darker than the floor is, or vice versa. It allows for that level of separation, which I think is really important when you're mixing wood tones. To allow yourself like a visual break, you're like, oh wait, these are so close but not close enough. And that could like bother you, or at least it would bother me. So it gives just a visual break from whatever wood tone or whatever table you have to the floor. And it anchors your dining area, especially if you have like an open concept space. Anchor your living space, anchor your dining space, so that they're not just like furniture floating around. It helps center everything. You can just anchor one and not the other. Sometimes it's hard to like choose the right rugs that go together, and maybe you have an awkward configuration of the space in general where one rug would have to be bigger than the other rug or whatever. It might look strange to have two. Anchor one of them so that they're staying put. I recommend it being your living space. And then your dining can be, on its own. But it's so important to anchor your dining table. If you can, you should. These are just examples of things that need to be anchored. We need strong foundations underneath this furniture so that it's contained. The argument of pattern versus plain rug, which should you choose? I can lean either way. There's 85 million factors why you might choose one over the other. I've done both. I do both. Why you might opt for pattern in a space is if you want to keep everything relatively neutral, but you want to bring in some color, you want something a little bit more exciting in the space, I would go for a pattern rug. It's easier to swap out than your furniture. It allows you to keep everything else neutral while bringing in something a little bit more interesting to look at. Bringing in another color to the palette that you wanted to introduce so that you can tie in your throw pillows or whatever. If you're worried about the pattern, a rug is much easier to swap out than furniture. So again, this is a great opportunity to play around and see what you like. See what colors you can live with. A safe place to experiment. Now, this is an argument that I bring up with clients all the time. If you have kids, this is a great way to hide stains. It's because it's like, is that part of the rug, or is it just like faded, or like, I don't know. And I'm not questioning it. A plain rug will always, always, always look nice if it's the right size. So, we're not talking about size anymore, but a plain rug is always going to look nice in the space. You can't go wrong with just throwing something down that's really, it's either bringing texture into the space, it's warming up a space, especially if you have cooler tones going on. This is a great way to just like bring in a little bit of warmth, a little bit of coziness, if your space is lacking either of those. Those are my general guidelines for picking out a rug. Hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know also if you liked this type of video, or if there's something similar that you were like, how do we pick out this thing? Don't ask me about paint. Paint's hard. It all depends on lighting, you know? You can't, I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfect paint color, because it can look so different depending on different lighting and whatever. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you, bye.